Let me get this right. I have many titles in my own head. I identify myself, but will be PC. I'm Clinton. I'm in recovery. Mine personally is a day at a time recovery setup. And I'm from Blackpool, which makes it a little bit special for me. The recovery walks in Blackpool, the thought of, let's hope it's 10,000, or whatever the amount it is. And I'm going to say this, I, at one point in my recovery some years ago, wasn't an advocate of visible recovery. And my mind has absolutely turned around 180 degrees. That means complete turn. Because I suppose, you know, I felt the need to protect myself and this, that and the other. And there was a little bit of shame attached to that. And if I think back to, I call myself a child of more, so that covers all the substances in the world. I don't need to list them all, I've used them all. The problem with me is once I use the first one, unfortunately, I don't have the power to stop of my own fruition. And I spent, my story isn't unique. I've been listening to stories for a lot of years. I've been speaking for a lot of years. So I truly love the idea of telling your story to somebody. And if I go back in time to say my last prison sentence, I will say my last prison sentence, which was 1996. Somebody told their story to me about staying clean in their own town in Blackpool, and I remember going back to my cell and thinking to myself, how does somebody do that? Do you know what I mean? That is absolutely unheard of, and I think we touched on it today. The fact that recovery was something that nobody ever talked about. It certainly wasn't visible. My experience of the prison back in the early days was slop outs, out your cell in 2 minutes, landing in the prison and getting a prescription of, they used to give you a week's detox all at once. Child of more, guess what happened? They were gone in one night. And the prison officers never really knew any different because they just didn't. So it was a case of, they give you a script, and I remember I was that week in a cell, I got up, and in them days they used to drag the urn round on a bloody chair, you know what I mean, and you got your cup of tea at the, when they opened the door, and I was that week, I just collapsed on the floor, and the guy stepped over me, do you know what I mean? But I also remember things changing as well. So if we talk about change and recovery, I remember being in Lancaster prison in 1996, and they just opened a recovery wing. And I remember one of the prison officers who generally had some positive regard for prisoners that were willing to have a go really and try and change their lives. Mr. Bevan, he was called. I'll never forget that guy. We went into a prison a while ago. Matty set me up. We walked in and he said we went and had a cup of tea with the governor, and I thought I was just giving him a lift there, and then next minute it was like 3 times the size of this, the bloody audience, and our names on the board. I went, thanks for that. But I told the story around this because when I go into, I'm fortunate enough, my job, I manage the recovery homes in Blackpool, the next step. I have 2 roles of, we call them the living experience team, sat on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th row, who truly inspire me on a daily basis and truly do me head in on a daily basis as well. But the thing is, I go into prisons, and we took a couple of lads the other day back into Weymouth, to tell their story. And I've never had such an experience as that, because when you're on a TC in there and you bring someone out from the community, because that's one of the biggest phases. When you're in the community in a TC, when I get released, what am I going to do? You know, to take this kid in there and light the whole prison up, because that's what we did, you know what I mean, and then leave. Now that's power, do you know what I mean? Because I'm sure that some of the guys in that prison were saying, do you know something, whatever he's done, I'm going to do. Do you know what I mean? And this is what we need to do, you know what I mean? I love the whole recovery community, the movement, I don't care where it is, which, you know, I'm personally a member of one of those over there. I won't name it, I'm not allowed. And I attend it and I've been for years, you know what I mean? And that's what sustains me and gives me a programme to live, which, you know what I mean, I lead my life by, which gives me everything internally that I need. But with that, and I say sometimes it's a bit of a penance, you know, I have to take phone calls at 12 o'clock at night. I have to go and pick somebody up. You know, and I'm going to tell a little story about community, yeah, because this is what this is about. This is about community. Because I went through the treatment system and it did what it did, and I ended up being detoxing a lovely place down the road, which is unfortunately shut down. And it introduced me to something that would change my life and be able, for me personally, be able to live my life. So if we're talking about community, you know, I have a lad sat in this room today who was on a script for 20 years. You know what I mean? Tipping up at that chemist for 20 years. And the thing about visible recovery, and I like Facebook as well, because people are putting it out there. You know what I mean? I remember Facebook years ago, and it's like you would never see anything recovery orientated on that page. And now there's loads of it, there's loads of groups, there's all sorts of stuff you can hook into, which is all a power for me. And we supported this kid in the community. So he was frightened, he was on a dose of methadone that he'd been on for years and years and years, and he was frightened to come off. Do you know what I mean? But I've watched this guy, and this journey for him happened some time ago on Facebook, where he's linking in the attraction of people, and then he started thinking, do you know something, I want some of that. And I know this kid because I grew up with him, he was my next door neighbour. I've done a lot of things with this kid, you know what I mean? So I thought to myself, what we're going to do here, how can we support him? Because he couldn't come into one of our recovery houses because it wasn't clean yet. So we set up the next step community chat, right? And our residents supported him through that process. So, you know what, like, I tipped up at one night because I was thinking to myself, I know what happens here. The third day, it's the worst day. It's the one you either bolt or you get through that first day. And, you know, I slept on his couch that night. And I don't say that to, you know, when I do things, I never like to mention what I'm doing. I try and keep it small. But I know that the third day is so important for someone. So I thought, what can I do? And this is the thing about it. This has got to be about what can we do to help people in the community. Because some people, you know, and I believe you can get clean in the community as well. You know what I mean? I know that. I have had experience of that. And it's always about a window of opportunity. Because when someone's had enough, yeah, there needs to be somebody there in order to open at that window. You know, I was one of the first people to be employed in the homeless sector in Blackpool, you know, with the organisation called the Ashley Foundation. And like what someone said, somebody believed in me on that day. But, you know, when I tipped up for the interview, they said to me, we've heard about you before you even got here, because I was trying to help and support people in recovery within their community. So back to this kid, it's like community works, you know what I mean? There's a massive recovery community in Blackpool, St Anne's, all over the place. And we do things that people don't talk about, you know what I mean? We take phone calls, we meet up with people, We have people tipping up upset, recovery is an up and down journey. It's not a bed of roses. Do you know what I mean? And that's the sustainability for me. It's like we need each other. And we had an assessment done at Jobs Centres and Houses some time ago by, I think it was Sir David Best, and he'd done these interviews with everyone in recovery all over the country, and he sat and did this seminar, and there's two things that stuck out for me and I've never forgot. He says, after all these conversations I've had with people in recovery all around the community, all around the UK, he said one thing is that people in recovery cannot do this on their own. And I thought, you bang on the money then. So it's got to be about friendships, community, one person helping another. And I think about the time that I was at an MBW course in Blackpool. I think I'd just eaten about 15 Mogadon because I thought I need to get myself set up for the day. It's one of those courses a job centre sent me on. I'm not going to be able to do that all day. And I was off my nut and I was on that course, and there was a worker there, and he works in services. And I truly believe if at that point he hadn't, and he shouldn't have done it, because obviously the professional boundaries of some organisations is you mustn't reveal you're in recovery. And I respect that to some point. But do you know something? He did, he took a risk. He blew me away on that spot, and that guy helped me on my journey from that point onwards. Do you know what I mean? I think to myself, what if that guy hadn't had that conversation on that day? Where would I be now? Would I have done things? Because he lit me up on that day. And this is what this is about. People on scripts, they need to know there's a way out. They need to see people in recovery. And I think it's a really important job to have the recovery world, and I'm going to say the abstinent recovery world, that's my advocacy, that's what I do. You know what I mean? Speak to these people and give them some hope and tell our story. You know what I mean? Because until someone told their story to me, I was a hopeless dope fiend. I like that. Hopeless dope fiend. It's American, but that's who I was. And I could not stop. And then as soon as I was introduced to other people in recovery, I become a hopeful, dopeless fiend. And I found the power to stop. Do you know what I mean? And my job then is to, sometimes my penance, I need to go out and help as many people as I can. And I love that. It drives me mad. We're growing as, our community, we've just got to do it. You know what I mean? We've just got to do it. So somewhere that world, 20 years in treatment, you know what I mean? That world's got to meet that world. You know what I mean? It really has to do that, because otherwise you're hopeless, aren't you? You know what I mean? It's that entrenched thinking, I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And that stuff never changes for anyone until you have that profound experience of one person in recovery speaking to another. That's how this works. You know what I mean? And once that stops, it is a chronic relapsing condition. Once that relationship stops, unfortunately, people are back in isolation, despair, their thinking changes, and then it becomes a really good idea. Do you know something? That first one isn't going to do the damage, and you know something? I'm going to be able to control it for at least 3 days. We start telling ourselves lies. Anyway, I've got 2 minutes, because peaks. But yeah, anything I believe is possible. We must never give up on anyone. And I've got a friend now, and it upsets me because he's just relapsed. You know what I mean? And it upsets me deeply. But I still, every day, send him a text. I send him some photographs of when he was clean. I need to be there when he's ready again. Do you know what I mean? I need to be there when he's ready again. And the reality of it is he might not get back to us. He might not make it. And I've experienced that. But I certainly won't be turning my back on him. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks.